Friends, after a hiatus of more than 2 years, we are now having the announcement of the next Advocate on Record examination. And also, there has been an inclusion of leading cases, which will be the most important part of the Advocate on Record examination. Even though it is an open book examination, leading cases reflects the current legal jurisprudential policies in trend in the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court is deliberating. The leading cases, an amendment, also reflects the thought process of the finest minds of the world in the judicial sphere, who are nothing but the Indian judges. If we had seen, leading cases is closely related to drafting as well as Advocate on Record practice and procedure examination. You see, the principles, the manner in which disputes are resolved, and the jurisdictional and the jurisprudential principles, these go on to expand themselves into the papers which are the practice and procedure and the drafting. So leading cases, earlier if you had seen, some of the case laws that were referred for the leading cases examination, such as Rupa Hurra, such as Vishaka, and AOR Association 1 and 2. These cases have a close link with the practice and procedure examination. And also drafting. If you see Rupa Hurra or AOR Antule, you will see that the entire review jurisdiction and the curative petition and the correctional jurisprudence of Supreme Court to review and correct its own wrong. And no one can be a victim of court's mistakes. So there is a need for the court to have a correctional system in place. And you see, Rupa Hurra, AOR Antule, were deliberating, and Rupa Hurra is nothing but the perfection of the review jurisdiction and the fact that Supreme Court is not infallible and it is prone to commit mistakes and it can correct its own mistakes. And it is a mixture of the complete justice part 142, 32 by way of writ petition. So the Supreme Court can correct itself by way of writ petition under 32, read with the curative petition, Supreme Court rules, and Article 142. And it can do a review jurisdiction, it can do a complete justice like that. So if you see this leading case, you will find that you are drafting in a review petition, the grounds for a review petition, then the manner in which you can draft a writ petition under 32, and how the reliefs can be sought. All these things are interlinked. So reliefs, manner of granting reliefs, the principles which go into granting reliefs, and how those reliefs were argued, and how these reliefs were won by advocates. In sometimes, for example, in the matter of Internet Mobile Association, which is a prescribed leading case, you find that the Supreme Court, in the end of its judgment, is in fact thanking the services of some senior advocates in the manner in which they argued the relief and molded the relief for their parties and succeeded in thwarting the RBA circular, which was an excessive exercise of powers. It was not proportional. So these are the ways in which reliefs are molded, and how the Supreme Court is impressed by the arguments led by the leading counsel, and how reliefs are molded. These are all things that you can come across in the leading cases. So leading cases is nothing but how you get the orders. What are the jurisdictional and jurisprudential principles that get you the orders? So if you want to get a good practice, if you want to practice as an advocate on record or as a senior advocate, you need to know these principles which are capable of impressing the judges and the narratives that succeed in getting the reliefs. All that is related to the leading cases is these things. What are the narratives that led to the Supreme Court handing over the orders? What were the principles that finally influenced the Supreme Court in giving the orders? In manners and matters of jurisprudence, strong legal principles, and doctrines. So these are the things discussed. So in every case there will be a doctrine, there will be a philosophy that guided the court in giving an order, and there will also be a very convincing argument. And you see, in leading cases you must also note the difference in opinion, a dissenting opinion. For example, all matters, for example in talaq matter, in the Shaira Banu case, the order is not entire 5-judge bench making a unanimous order. It is a 3:2 order. So in that case you must see what is the difference in opinion, what is the dissenting opinion, and how it has influenced the fissure in majority and a minority decision. So these are things which you must be very keenly noticing. So leading cases are giveaways into the minds of the judiciary and how the orders are molded and what are the arguments that are winning in Supreme Court. You must approach it in this manner. Another thing, if you look at leading cases, it has a close connection with the kind of judicial technique and judicial mind a particular class and a particular period of esteemed judges had and celebrated. So if you see every particular era of a Chief Justice, you will see some kind of judicial principle at attaining a great level of attention. For example, if you see the last few Honorable Chief Justices of India, for example in Sadasivam's Justice Sadasivam's tenure, you find Selvi, you find Anil Amit Shah. These judgments, these are the judgments with respect to second FIR and also in case of Selvi, this is a right to privacy, right against self-incrimination. So in some places the right to privacy, right to self-incrimination, Article 21, right to life get predominance. For example, in the time of Honorable Justice Deepak Mishra, you find the personal liberties in the manner of exercise of personal liberties, choices, individual choices as opposed to social wrongs, and whether there can be a public censure of individual choices. For example, if a person is in adultery, whether adultery is in such an extent that it requires to be punished, or it's just a personal choice which does not go to the extent of damaging the social fabric. This was discussed. It was held that in Joseph Shine, it was held that adultery, only if it has the potential of damaging the social fabric, of doing irreparable wrong to the social ethos, it can be considered a public wrong. So public wrong cannot be immediately foisted on a person to bring him lots of social stigma unless his personal choices and behavior impacts the social ethos and the society at large. So this was one judgment. In Navtej Johar, you saw that the LGBT rights. So rights of individuals and a right to liberty, right to personal choices in relationships, then right of the wife to enjoy equal liberty and individuality. All these things are discussed during the time of Deepak Mishra. These were the main judgments which caught the imagination. For example, in the case of Lordship Mr. R.M. Lodha, you will find that the mining cases, public accountability, these were the cases that dominated the time. And in the recent instance, you can see our Honorable Justice Ranjan Gogoi. In his tenure, many political issues that were having lots of legal connotations were honorably and very efficiently disposed of in case of Ayodhya or in case of Rafael. In spite of the intense public pressure and scrutiny and media scrutiny, there were successful resolution of long-time political disputes. So every particular flavor of a particular Honorable Chief Justice will have a particular set of legal and fundamental rights being celebrated and given the height of attention. So this is the manner in which you have to approach leading cases. And if you observe the leading cases that are included, the last few leading cases, around 20-25 leading cases have been included, apart from what is already prescribed. You will find that there are certain cluster cases. Usually, in those good old times when our esteemed senior Mr. Fali Nariman used to lecture us for the AOR lectures, we would find that he used to differentiate the cases, the leading cases, into personal liberty, into right of the parliament to make amendments, amending power of the parliament, Keshwananda Bharati, Minerva Mills. So there were cluster cases, you see, Menaka Gandhi, ADM Jabalpur. So how we were taught to read the leading cases was, it has to be in clusters. First you must identify the heads, the main heads under which they fall. For example, right to privacy, there are so many cases that are prescribed now. So for example, there is a new head of litigation now, as opposed to the earlier ones. There were only central excise, sales tax, like that. But now you see, after arbitration, after SPP, and the increase in the GATT and World Trade Order, you find that there is a requirement of better and sharp commercial and legal tools to commercial disputes. And you see, our esteemed Honorable R.F. Nariman sir had made very great judgments with respect to IBC, SR Steel, then Swiss Ribbon, and many other landmark judgments were made. Apart from, of course, in right to privacy, you can take Shaira Banu. These are judgments where our Mr. Honorable Justice Nariman had made a path-breaking jurisprudential enunciation of policies and principles. And you see, now in these, I see in the new addition to the leading cases, this commercial litigation aspect, this commercial contracts, interpretation of commercial contracts and disputes, and the new debt recovery regime under the IBC, all these have got great attention, and these are reflected because they are now the main litigations in Supreme Court. You see, some of the main litigations with respect to commercial contracts earlier were under the Securitization Act or under the arbitration. Now you see, there is a new IBC. So IBC has now taken up the imagination and is now touted as the best tool to solving commercial dispute and corporate insolvency resolution processes across India. Therefore, you see, this judgment of Committee of Creditors of SR Steel, and another judgment is with respect to Internet Mobile Association versus RBI with respect to cryptocurrencies. Supreme Court had to deal with the cryptocurrencies and the validity of online platforms professing trading of cryptocurrencies. So these were things that the Supreme Court had deliberated, and you see, these you find in the new leading cases. So what I'll be doing is, I'll be discussing all these leading cases that are prescribed, main leading cases which I found of great interest. Out of the 25, I'll be at least covering some 18-20 in a very short and crisp manner, and later I'll be giving the notes by online. Thank you.